Hey everybody. Today what we're going to be doing is starting our big unit on geometry. Fortunately today is just a review. We're covering many of the topics and vocabulary words that you guys should have learned in 6th and 7th grade. So if you guys don't remember a lot of this stuff, it's okay. Today we're just going to review a lot of this stuff, and I want you guys to take very good notes. At any time, I might ask you guys to pause, discuss, and review what you just wrote. So let's go on with the lesson today. So one big thing you guys should be able to do is to name an angle. So let's say I have this given angle with points A, B, and C. How do we name this angle? Well, let's go over some vocabulary words first. One of the things you guys should know is that an angle has sides which we name rays. Rays are the sides of an angle. That elbow of the angle is called a vertex. So how do we name this angle now? Well, this angle can be called angle ABC. You have to put that little angle sign and put A, B, and C using the point of the angle. Notice what's the middle letter. The middle letter is B, which is the vertex. If you name an angle by 3 letters, you have to put the vertex in the middle. Looking at them, is that the only way we can name this angle? Well, another way to name this angle is angle CBA. You can name it in reverse, just as long as the vertex is in the middle. Another thing you guys should know is that I don't see any other angle except the one that's given to me. So in fact, you can also name this particular angle just by the vertex. So you could call this angle B. When we measure an angle is how much it is open. So angles are measured on how open they are. How do we measure angles? Inches, feet, meters, centimeters? They're measured in degrees. And so for this particular angle, I'm going to say it's 70 degrees. And we have to put that little degree symbol on the right hand side, or else you'll be marked off. Let's now go over some other vocabulary that you guys should know from last year. So, what kind of angle is this? This is an acute angle. An acute angle is an angle less than 90 degrees. Looking at the next slide, what kind of angle is this? This is a right angle, and a right angle is an angle that is exactly 90 degrees. The next slide, what kind of angle is that? Well, that's an obtuse angle, in which it is an angle more than 90 degrees. And I'm going to add some more to this right now. It's an angle more than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. So guys, at any time, if you want to pause, please pause. So let's look at the next slide where it says adjacent angles. Let's compare the two images given to me right here. On the left-hand side, illustrates adjacent angles. On the right-hand side, it doesn't. So what are adjacent angles? Well, adjacent angles share a common side. If you look at this image, you have two angles. You have this one, and you have this one. And they share a common side. So adjacent angles are angles next to each other and share a common side. If you have adjacent angles, you have to name the angles by 3 letters. You cannot name simply one angle as angle B, because if you guys notice my two angles here, they both have a vertex with point B. So let's go over some other vocabulary words from your past. Number 1, complementary angles. Let's look over at the illustration on the left-hand side where it says pairs of complementary angles. On the right-hand side, illustrates angles that are not complementary. So what are complementary angles? Please write this down, guys. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. That's what it illustrates on the left-hand side. So for the next slide, it's supplementary angles. Look at the examples on the left-hand side. Look at the examples on the right side. Well, if you haven't figured out already, supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. Remember, only two of them. And the previous slide illustrated complementary angles, which add up to 90 degrees. So let's look at this example. Some of you guys could do this in your head, but let's say I ask you to solve this algebraically. What kind of angle does this image illustrate? You have this angle right here, you have this angle right here. Well, they illustrate supplementary angles. These two angles add up to 180. So how do I show my work algebraically? This is what you do. A plus 68 equals 180. What you do then at this point is subtract 68 from both sides. Thus, if you do your work correctly, A should equal to 112 degrees. Now the next angle is a tough one to describe and define. Let's look at what it says for vertical angles. Vertical angles really have nothing to do with the word vertical, up and down. So let's look at the image on my left-hand side. 1 and 2 are vertical angles. 3 and 4 are vertical angles. angle AED and angle BEC are also vertical angles. On the right-hand side, it illustrates a whole bunch of pairs of angles that are not vertical. So what are vertical angles? There's going to be a lot of writing here, so please make sure you copy all this down. Vertical angles are made when two lines intersect and are across from each other. So with my blue ink, I'm going to illustrate that. Again, this angle is vertical with that angle. 3 and 4 are across from each other when those two lines cross. Likewise for angle AED and angle BEC. What special thing would you guys assume about vertical angles? Do they add up to 90 degrees? No. Are they supplementary? Not all the time. So what's the special thing about vertical angles? Let's look at angle 1 and 2. What would you say is the relationship between angles 1 and 2? Well, angles 1 and 2 on the left-hand side, I think they're the same. So, what's a word in geometry that means the same? That word is congruent. Congruent means equal measure or the same. So vertical angles are made when two lines intersect and are across from each other. They are congruent. Meaning they're equal in measure. So on the left-hand side, if angle 1 is 120 degrees, what's the measure of angle 2? Well, that also should be 120 degrees too. Okay, guys. Let's see if you guys can understand. Let's find the missing angles. Now, there are a couple of special angles involved here. The easiest one to figure out is angle C. How many degrees is angle C? Well, from what we just learned on the previous slide, these two angles are vertical angles. What do we know about vertical angles? Well, they're made when two lines cross, they're across from each other, and they're congruent. So if one angle is 41 degrees, angle C must also be 41 degrees. Okay? What's angle A? How do we figure out the measure of angle A? Well, I want you guys to look close at this. You've seen this before. I'm going to illustrate this using blue ink. Do you guys see this line right here? Do you guys see this ray coming out of right here? What would you say is the relationship between angle A and 41 degrees on the right-hand side? What's the relationship between this angle and this angle? If you look at it closely, they're supplementary. Angle A plus 41 degrees equals to 180 degrees. So how much is angle A? Well, let's do some math. A plus 41 equals 180 degrees. Subtract 41 from both sides. A is then equal to 139 degrees. So angle A is 139 degrees. How much is the angle measure of angle T? Well, look at it closely again. What's the relationship between angle A and angle T? Well, I think I see two lines crossing. I see two angles across from each other. So this angle down here, angle T, is going to be 139 degrees also, because angle A and angle T are vertical angles. Okay, let's see if you guys truly understand. Let's look in this image. Name two pairs of adjacent angles and two pairs of vertical angles in the figure. I'm going to use three letters to name my angles. So let's look at this. Name some adjacent angles. Well, as you guys know, you're supposed to use that little angle symbol. I'm going to say that angle MLK and angle KLR are adjacent. Two angles right next to each other and share a common side. Is there another pair of adjacent angles? Yes, there are. You look at it, look at this angle, and let's look at that angle. They're right next to each other and share a common side. So I'm going to say angle MLJ and angle JLR. Okay. Let's see if you guys understood what vertical angles are. Vertical angles are made when two lines cross and are across from each other. So I'm going to say that these two angles right here are vertical angles. So angle MLJ is also vertical angles with angle KLR. Is that the only pair of vertical angles that I see? The answer to that is no. Look at it. This angle and this angle are also vertical angles. So angle MLK and angle JLR are vertical angles. Okay. Hope you guys understood this part. Let's look in the next slide. Do you understand? Use the given information to solve each problem. Angle 1 and 2 are supplementary. What does supplementary mean? Well, that means they add up to 180 degrees. Write an equation and find the value of x. So, we know supplementary means 180 degrees, and therefore angle 1 plus angle 2 equals to 180. So 50 degrees plus 3x. I'm not going to write the degree symbol. I'm actually going to put 50. 50 plus 3x equals 180 degrees. Because angle 1 equals 50 degrees, and angle 2 is equal to 3x degrees. So 50 plus 3x equals 180. I'm now going to solve this. I'm going to subtract 50 from both sides. Again, I get 3x equals to 130. Ooh, I think I'm going to get an ugly fraction. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And therefore x, sorry about that guys, I'm going to do the math for you. The answer is 43.3 bar degrees. Just to let you guys know, most of the time you won't get a weird answer like that. Okay? So I'm going to skip part B because it came out to an ugly problem. Let's go to the next page. This is a lot easier. So for the next and last slide, this is what it says. Do you understand? Use the given information to solve each problem. Angle 1 and 2 are complementary. What do we know about complementary angles? They add up to 90 degrees. So we know that the measure of angle 1 is x, and the measure of angle 2 is 2x. I'm going to write an equation now and find the value of x. So angle 1 is x. I'm going to add it to angle 2, which is 2x. And those two angles together are complementary. Therefore, they add up to 90 degrees. I'm going to simplify this. So I get 3x equals to 90. I'm going to divide now both sides by 3. Therefore, x is going to equal to 30 degrees. Now let's look at part B. Use the value of x to find the measure of angle 2. Well, if you look at this, the measure of angle 2 is 2x. How do I figure out the measure of angle 2? Well, isn't x 30 degrees? So, measure of angle 2 equals 2x. I'm going to substitute in 30 into x, and therefore the measure of angle 2 is going to be 60 degrees. And that's it, guys. Well, I'm hoping you guys got the lesson. I'll see you guys next time.